Hey everyone, hello there. This is Cece Shatz, and you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And I am so excited to be here tonight. We are on the Going Solo with Cece show, and we have got a lot happening here in our network. So before we start the show, I want to introduce myself. Those of you that have not seen the show before or have not heard of me, I am Cece Shatz. I'm the doyenne of relationship building, and I really try to connect you with others, and that's really what I've been doing now lately, connecting you with great individuals who can help move you through, I think, some of the darkest times in your life. I am also a coach myself. I'm a divorce and dating coach, but I really want to connect you with those that can really inspire you and move you forward. And that's what Going Solo with Cece was all about. We've broadened now into WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and we're moving and grooving as we continue to move forward, bringing you great information that will inspire you into your new single life. So we want to make sure you connect with us properly. So we are on Facebook. It's WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. .com. You can like our page there. We also have the same on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to us. And we would love for you to reach out and really write a message and tell us what you think of things. If you like it, you dislike it, if you want to hear something different, or if you want a guest to come back on, let's inspire our guests. Let's make them know that we love them, we need them, and we most importantly listen to them. And that's what's most important. So we're going to move into our subject tonight. And our subject tonight is so dear to my heart because you all know that I have come from a very, heart-wrenching divorce myself. And it's really taken me it's actually kind of enlightened me, right? Because it's taken me from the painful depths of I think really where I was at that particular moment. And I've moved myself through with the help of other people, going through now to living my best life, doing what I love to do, what I'm inspired to do. And this is all because of individuals who have helped me. And those individuals are experts in their field of divorce. And so we have one of the very best on the channel tonight, and I'm so delighted to have her. She has started this, it's a 12-step divorce recovery series. I think it's so needed, it's so important, and I am so delighted to bring her forward. Her name is Karen McMahon. Karen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Cece. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, I am thrilled to have you. I absolutely am thrilled to have you. I tell you, you have really, I have seen you over the years also grow within your own environment. And so, Karen, share with us why you got into doing what you're doing. What inspired you to help others through divorce?
Yeah, great question. Much like you, I had a really tumultuous marriage and an incredibly difficult divorce. And in New York, divorce can go for years. And so mine ended up taking over 3 years. And my children were 5 and 7 when I began. And it was like a living hell, I think is the best way to put it. And yet, when I emerged on the other side, I had worked so hard on myself and I felt like such a different person. Like I really loved the person I emerged as, and I began to do some more work and realized that I was a child of divorce, and it seemed like my mission to help people who can't really see the possibility to find hope and to use this difficult season to transform. And that's really what got me started.
Well, that is so great. I know that sometimes it takes us through the pain of what we've experienced to be able to move forward. And then when we kind of tap into our core, I feel, and we move forward like you did and like I've done, we've really kind of turned our lives around and we've moved forward into helping other people. And I was so touched by the information that you sent me, because I do feel that there has to be some sort of structure a little bit. I mean, even though we we have to kind of take it at our own pace, divorce recovery. We have to, there's no rules written how long it takes one, or maybe we might go forward and then we have to back up a little bit or something like that. But there is something said for having a bit of a structure involved with being able to get really good information, because when you're hurting and you don't really know what to do, then you're out there on the internet and you're searching and searching. And that's how I started, because, the divorce support group I was in, they said, oh my gosh, we're having Google at 3:00 in the night trying to find something to read, or something we can listen to, because we can't sleep and we just need to know more answers, as to what we're feeling. And so when you sent me your information, I thought, bing, this is so good, because I really do feel that it will help many, many people be able to really tap into who they are, moving forward in their divorce recovery. So let's talk a little bit about the program that you're putting in place. And I don't want to share all of it with the audience because I think they need to touch base with you, but share with us a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you. So after a couple of years and hundreds of clients, me and my business partner, Lisa Brick, sat down and said, why don't we start looking to see what the common pitfalls, emotional pitfalls are that people go through, and let's see if we can't craft something that addresses all of them. And as we began to talk it through, and come up with this list, we thought, you know what? The 12-step program, the AA, the Al-Anon 12-step program is so successful, and we've got 12 steps. So why don't we create, it's not that program, it's totally different, but why don't we create a 12-step divorce recovery program that allows people to walk through each of the steps? And the important thing to know about this program, Cece, is it really doesn't matter if you're listening. It doesn't matter. That's okay. It doesn't matter where you are in the legal process.
Mm-hmm.
So people always ask that. It's like, well, what if I'm post-divorce? Or what if I haven't decided yet? The 12-step divorce recovery program is really about helping people navigate the emotions. So I work with clients who are post-divorce. They've legally divorced, but they never emotionally divorced. So they're actually still caught in the same dynamic and struggle with their ex as they were when they were married. They would start at step one. And so the program is meant to help you. Everything that we do at Journey Beyond Divorce, you mentioned people troll the internet. And as we know, and certainly, I have 2 children, and I'm like, just because you read it on the internet does not mean it's good or it's true or it's helpful. And so when you're going through a divorce, I think what's really overwhelming is to then find yourself reading articles that may not resonate, that aren't on track with your way. And so just for the audience, our belief is divorce, as painful and overwhelming as it is also a unique opportunity to recreate, reinvent yourself, to go from, in my case, being fairly unconscious and having some real brokenness to becoming conscious and intentional in all of my relationships. And that's what we kind of do through the 12 steps, is help people keep the focus on themselves, right? So it's so sticky, like your ex, whoever your ex is, whatever their story is, you're crystal clear on all of their shortcomings, their faults, their imperfections. And that's where we focus our attention, and that's what we react to. And the 12 steps is about shift that focus to you and what your triggers are and how you think, act, and behave. And that's going to be where the golden nuggets are.
Yeah, I so agree with that, because sometimes technology is crazy, so I get a little backfeed there. And I do apologize. We had an Amber Alert go out, and of course I'm all full of technology, so everything starts beeping and carrying on over here. So I do apologize for that. But so getting back to this, the thing is so often as we're going through divorce, we think, okay, we get an attorney, we get through that, they'll protect they'll protect us, whatever. But we're really on this emotional roller coaster ride. And the attorneys can't help us with that. They don't really understand it, and they feel sorry for us. I think they have compassion, but that's not what they do. That's not what they're trained, and that's not, where their specialty lies. Theirs is within the law and protecting you and trying to make sure they move that procedure through as swiftly as they can. Meantime, we're going a little bit cuckoo, trying to be able to catch up with all of that. And so I think that roller coaster ride, it's so important to get someone, such as yourself or a coach or, whatever. I mean, I'm not pushing you completely, although I do admire you tremendously. But get someone in their court, someone that can help them to be able to start focusing again on them. Because as you said, when you're focusing on your ex, you're really just focusing on the negative part of your life, right? And you've got so many wonderful things that are about to take place.
And it's also very disempowering to focus all of your energy on something that you can't change. And if you were able to make the changes, you wouldn't be in the position you're in. And so divorce in general, we don't have a lot of control. We don't control the schedule of the court. We don't control how our ex is going to react. We don't control what our financial or child parent scheduling is. And so what we can control is ourselves. And we really encourage our clients to root into using this time to refine themselves, really, and to, as a result of refining themselves, move closer to what they desire rather than their reactiveness pulling them further away, which is what typically happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's amazing to those that I've talked about that have gone through divorce, that have transpired into new horizons, new positions, new careers, whatnot, new relationships. It's really been an awesome transformation that has happened. And those individuals are the ones that were really wrapped with the pain that, you sometimes wonder, are they going to be able to get through it? Are they going to be able to surface this without cracking themselves? But as they are moving forward, having, counseling, having a coach, doing those necessary steps to really, fine tune on their own core, what their beliefs are, moving forward, that kind of stuff. They really have transformed into amazing, careers and positions, and you're looking at them going, what happened? This is awesome. It truly is wonderful. So give us just a couple nuggets here that we can kind of take with us.
Yeah, and we can talk about as much of it as we want, because there's so much depth to every step. There's we're not stingy with sharing what the steps are, and so we start with step one, which is to curb the conflict. Now, pretty much everyone should start with step one, because whether you have a high conflict or a low conflict divorce, you're in reaction. And every time you get triggered by a situation with the court, the attorney, or your ex or your soon-to-be ex, you react. And when you react, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire that you would really rather put out. And so step one talks about curbing the conflict. And the concept is to slow your reactions down. And it's the beginning of becoming conscious. So when you notice that you're triggered, you step back, you create some space. Maybe you're putting yourself in a timeout, whatever you're doing, you're not having that knee jerk. Like, do you ever get an email and then you're like, oh, I gotta write back right away, and I'm gonna say something.
You get so ticked off, you know. I mean, I remember going through mine, and I remember getting an email and reading it and going, and just the pent up anger. But then, as you said, then I learned.
You fly back at them, they fly back at you. Grenades are going off left and right. Emotional shrapnel is all over the place, and that's not really what any of us want. And so when you allow that wave of upset And it really doesn't take long. In fact, in 12-step programs, they say, if you're upset, count to 10. If you're really upset, count to 100. Like, it's amazing how fast it does begin to subside. So the first thing is noticing it. And then the second thing is creating that space until you're calm. And that's the key to curbing the conflict. So that's just a snippet of step one.
Yeah, I remember, and I've shared this on another show before too. I remember I finally got to that point where I could do that myself. And I remember my ex saying, well, you didn't answer my email. You know, I sent you an email and you didn't answer it. Why didn't you answer my email? Very demanding, because, you know, whatever he said, I needed to hop, right? And I said, because I don't have to, you know, and I realized then I don't have to. I can make the decision of what I want to do. And if I don't want to answer it, I don't have to. And so it's getting that control, taking that control back, and not even that, it's just focusing on me. It didn't matter whether I really answered it or not. He was just trying to push a button, and I didn't allow the button to be pushed and just moved forward. But it really did help me to start realizing that I needed to step back away from things. So I always, from then on, if I got an email, I just sat on it for a few hours or overnight. I didn't make the phone call right away unless I had to. Of course, if you have to do something, you have to do it. But
right.
It truly made a big difference.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference. I had a client who, her child was an infant. Her ex, he was an ex at the time. He had a personality disorder. So there was just a higher level of conflict. Mm-hmm. And she was divorced, but she was still caught in that dance. And so he might send, a dozen texts or a dozen emails, and she just responded because she had to. And when we began to coach around, well, take a step back, and is it urgent? And do you have to look at them all day long? Can you have the emails go directly into a folder that you look at night? And we begin to create strategies that allow for that space. And the most important thing, as you spoke to, is for you to realize a pattern of behavior that you've been involved in that hasn't served you, because that's the aha moment. It's like, wow, I don't have to do that. And when I do it a different way, it feels better, and the outcome and the result is better. And so you've already gotten a little unstuck and started moving in a better direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. It's amazing when you do get to that point, but it's a process. And so anyone out there that's listening, know that it also depends, I think, on your actual circumstances. How intense is your divorce? How intense was your relationship? So it's going to take you, if it was a lot more intense, it's going to take you a little bit longer. And so you just kind of go at the pace that's good for you. But it's good to have that. Your second step was heal the hurt of divorce.
Right. So, and step 1 and 2 are so interchangeable, because what happens is, if we're not feeling our feelings, and sobbing all of the time doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually sitting with and processing those feelings. And so feeling your feelings is where you're really honoring what you're going through, where you're processing it either verbally or through journaling, so that because when it's in our head, right, when it's in our heart and we don't talk about it, it seems bigger and more overwhelming than it actually is. And so healing the hurt is about not avoiding it, not stuffing it, not going out and starting to date and making believe it doesn't exist, but actually honoring it. And what happens is, if we don't honor and process and release our emotions, then we're acting out of that emotional state. And what's true is, if you are really upset, for instance, it's like an emotional fog. Like you don't access your brain because there's this emotional fog going on. And then you're acting out of that place. So you're not even thinking clearly at the time. And again, you end up fueling the fire. And so healing the hurt is about taking the time to honor all the myriad of feelings that you have, including regret, guilt, shame, fear, insecurity, like the whole realm of it, to honor it instead of stuff it or numb it, so that it processes through and you begin to actually heal.
Oh, that's great. The fourth one I thought was interesting: seek solutions during divorce.
Right, right. And what's interesting about 4 is, one thing is we tend to be in resistance. One of my favorite talking points on this is someone who's been married for 20 years and their spouse has had certain behavior. Let's say they're late. And then they're like, I can't believe he showed up late. Really? Why? Has he ever showed up late before? Yeah, for 20 years. That's resistance. And so it's like when we continue to be surprised and upset about something that's the other person's behavior, that puts us in resistance. We're resisting how they are. So we're not coming up with solutions because we're just assuming the next time it won't happen. And then we get to be angry and surprised and disappointed all over again. So the way you shift into solution is to first step into acceptance, accepting that the divorce is happening, accepting that maybe you lost your voice during your marriage and you feel bad and maybe you're a little self-condemning, and just accepting that I did and this is where I am. And the idea about step 4 is no matter where you are, no matter how each person behaves, it's the only place you can move forward. And so number 1 is to be in acceptance rather than resistance. And then the other thing is that the problems are scary, they're sticky, they're overwhelming. And when I work with clients, we'll talk about the problem. And then I'm like, okay, we're crystal clear on the problem. What's the solution? And 2 seconds later, they're back ruminating about the problem. Okay, we got that. We got the problem. Let's go to the solution. And that's a big shift for people. And one of the most powerful things is to notice if you tend to keep going back to talk to your friends, to talk to your therapist, to keep rehashing the problem, as opposed to accepting that the problem is the problem and begin to come up with choices for the solution. And what happens oftentimes is when we first start looking at solutions, all the solutions suck. It's like they all stink. But the more you focus on your solutions and the more you shift your energy to acceptance, choices begin to open up and possibility opens up and you have more and more to choose from. And you start going, okay, I can choose this. This is good. So becoming solution-oriented rather than problem-oriented is brilliant during divorce.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it does take you to another level, another place, definitely, of where you're at. This one here on number 5, grow through grief during divorce.
Right.
Grief is a tremendous, painful feeling, and often we don't think we feel that when we're going through divorce, but we most certainly do feel grief, don't we?
Yeah, and there's 2 different sides to this one. On the one hand, grieving isn't linear, so you don't go from denial to depression to anger, and ultimately we all end up in acceptance if we're actually growing through grief. But it's more like being a pinball machine, right? So you could be like, I just had 3 great days. I don't know what's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. Now I don't want to get out of bed. Nothing's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. You're grieving. And so grief is sloppy. It bounces around all the different phases. And every one of us grieve differently. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who lost her dad 15 years before I lost my dad. And when we sit and we talk about it, we have very different current emotional experiences of our loss because we grieve differently. And so if anyone says to you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, go out and start dating, like, come on, get over it, he or she wasn't worth it anyway, that's not helpful. What's helpful is someone who is going to hold that safe space for you, that's going to allow you to verbally process whatever it is that you need. So that's one part of growing through grief. The other part that I always like to mention is what is going on with your soon-to-be ex. And, for me, I chose to leave. And what was fascinating, and I see it in so many of my clients, is I took my ex's reaction as manipulative because I didn't know any better. But in truth, I had been unhappy for so long. I had begun grieving the marriage and going through my grief process probably a couple of years before we actually began the legal process. But he was starting so far behind me. So he was in denial. He was going through all of those difficult, sloppy early stages. And so it can look very much like manipulation. And not that I'm suggesting that you have a ton of compassion for your spouse on that front end, because we really need time for forgiveness and hopefully ultimately compassion. But even if you can't do that, to just know that we all grieve. And if you're the one who kind of dropped the bomb and said, I'm leaving, that person is going to be spinning for a while and they're going to need some time. And if you could go into it knowing that and give them the space to navigate that, don't be their support, but give them the space to navigate that, it could go such a long way to having a smoother divorce.
There's something too, Karen, I wanted to mention and ask you is that don't we grieve different, I would say maybe different items or different things. Like you have the loss of the relationship, and you have loss of the partner, you have loss of their family, you have loss of friends, loss of what you thought the relationship was, of what you thought the relationship was going to be in the future. I mean, there's so many of these areas that it seems like when you get through one, then you realize the other one, and then that hits you. And it's I have no friends, I have no family anymore. They won't talk to me now. It's like, you're just constantly moving through really a lot of heartache.
Yeah, there's a lot of loss, and you're absolutely right. It's very multidimensional, and your finances change, your social circle changes. I loved my in-laws. And they slammed the door on me, and so that was its own loss for me. And that was something that probably actually took me longer to process. And so you're absolutely right. Some people say, they say that divorce is the second most devastating transition to the death of a loved one. But I've had so many clients who say, actually, it seems like it's harder because of all of those dimensions that go on.
Yeah, I tend to think so too, because in a death, a lot of people will rally around you. In a divorce, people don't. And so they turn their backs on you sometimes. And it's just it's just tremendous what you have to go through too. And then you're also dealing with, your own, with rejection, you're dealing with your own, your own part of it. And if you did choose to leave, then you're dealing with also the guilt of doing that you had to step forward for yourself, moving forward. So there's a lot of dimensions, like you said, in divorce, what we go through, and it's just a huge process. And I have also seen where, they'll go a couple steps and then they'll come back again and revisit again. And do you find that too?
Absolutely. And I think that, when we talk about step 2, which is heal the hurt, there's so many other feelings, the guilt, the shame, the regret, the dream that wasn't, and then this, which is just so much loss. And so, you bounce around. And the other thing that I learned about grief is when you grieve something new, there's the residue of what you've grieved before. So you may have lost a parent or a sibling or even a pet, or you may have lost a job. And it's like, it's so important for us to honor grief, because when we don't grieve well, we bring it forward. We bring it forward into our next situation or relationship, and then our next loss is compiled by it. So, and again, I think our society is one where it's like, you know what, why don't you go to the doctor and get a pill? That's not helpful. And that doesn't mean that sometimes it isn't the right thing to do in the beginning to get your head above water. But we do live in a society where people are uncomfortable with sloppy feelings, which is why a lot of people don't want to talk to you about your feelings. I have so many clients go, I'm going to lose all my friends. They just don't want to hear from me anymore. And meanwhile, they're in their process. And so one of the things, and this is a little bit off topic 5, but is to have a healthy support network. I think it's vital, not just a good attorney, financial planner, and divorce coach, but to have, just because someone loves you doesn't mean they should make the cut for your A team of support. So if they're a negative Nilly, if they're very reactive, if they have a hard time with somebody communicating emotions, maybe you want to talk to them when you're in a good place, but not so much when you're not, and have that.
And maybe you just can't, maybe they have all looked at you to see, and I've had a lot of people say that, is that they look at you differently, they kind of look up to you. And then when you're crumbling, this is like that's the last people you want to know that you're crumbling. You want to try to still gain your composure, and I've had many people that say, I've had to step out of business meetings, and I had to do different things to try to gain myself, get, composure again, even though, it was just hard for me to really get it, keep it at that moment. And so, you really feel for people when they go through that, because it is true. I think if you can get a set of people, like you said, on your A team, in your corner that you can talk to, that will support you and won't judge you. And it's a huge, that I think that is just a huge recovery process for you. I mean, I just really feel that it can sometimes make it or break it for you, and we have a lot of people that go through this tough time of divorce and that want to commit suicide. And so we want to stop that. Yeah.
And if I could just, on something that you spoke about, one of the things I talk to people about is, when you're going through divorce, there's so much going through your head, right? There's everything about the past that you're running through. There's everything you don't know about the future, right? There's the uncertainty of the finances, of your time with the kids, of who's going to get which friend. Like, there's so much. And if you've ever downloaded a software program and the rest of your computer kind of like freezes and glitches up, that's what happens in our head. And if you're a business owner, or you're a C-suite person, really, if you're anyone in business, to expect to be at the top of your A game as you go through divorce is insanity. It's not possible. And I think that it's so important to have reasonable expectations about the power of that transition and how it's going to impact you. And yeah, I've had clients who've gone to their bosses or their managers and said, this is what's going on. I'm doing my best, but if you could have some grace for me. And it's also a great value of hooking up with a divorce coach, someone who can strategically help you move forward so that you don't stay in that space as long. And that's something that we talk to people about.
Yeah. I think that's important too. And one of the reasons is because those individuals, the divorce support, the coaches and such, they're experts. They've been trained. They deal with people every day, and so they are aware that when they see something they can kind of pinpoint it right then. They're no, I mean, they've seen it before and they've dealt with it before. And so it's nice to know that you have someone that kind of, number one, understands what you're going through, and number two, doesn't really put you in a box, because that's the last thing you want to do is be put in a box, but has the education and the support enough to be able to know that what you need, and kind of keep guiding you through. Because I think that's the trick to divorce recovery, is to continue that motion, that onward motion of going through, moving through it.
And I just want to say that a vital piece too is, there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of different levels of training. And so trust your intuition. I'm not a mentor. I don't tell my clients what to do. That's not what coaching is about. And so just because I did things a certain way, or just because 10 of my clients did things a certain way, doesn't mean the new client is going to need that path. And I think that if you're out there and you're shopping for support, really trust your intuition, because you have your unique way. You have your family of origin, your history in your marriage, your values. And so you really want someone who's going to hold space and trust that you actually have all the answers. They can give you information, but that ultimately the decisions that you're making are based on what you know to be best for you, not what someone else thinks is best for you. There's something called shoulding on people. And the last thing someone going through divorce needs is someone who's shoulding on them. And you should do this and you should do that. It actually makes life all the more chaotic and confusing, as opposed to helping them peel the layers back and figure out this path. Actually, most people wouldn't do that, but it really feels right for me. And you poke around why, and then you support them on the path of their choice.
Yeah, that's a key. I think that's a huge key of divorce recovery, is being able to kind of help guide them, like you, the divorce coach, help guiding them through, but them really taking those steps and moving forward at the pace that they need to move forward, back up if they need to back up, maybe plant their feet for a while and visit this, because we need to kind of heal a little bit. And, and I've often said, the ones that heal truly do heal all the way. It's those individuals that participate in their own recovery, because so often they just do what other people tell them to do, and they just walk through, well, I'll start dating and I'll start doing this and but they don't. But when they stop and they actually, really participate in their recovery, they read books, they get themselves around positive people, they start making friends that they can relate to, other like-minded individuals, get a really good divorce coach or therapist or someone that can help walk them through that. They start taking action, their own movement of choice, moving them forward into what they need to do. So I love this that you're doing. I mean, some of these are just rekindle. Number 7, rekindle confidence during divorce. I love that.
Rekindling confidence it's really about it starts with what's happening between our ears, right? And so when you think about all of the ruminating that you do and all the stories you tell yourself, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. He's going to take the children away from me. She's going to take me for all of my money. I'm not good enough to go out and get a job. I'm not pretty enough or young enough to go out and get a date. Like, the stories that we tell ourselves crush our confidence, destroy our confidence. And so step 7 really challenges you that you are the narrator and the author of your story. If you're writing a nightmare, edit it, change it. Yeah.
That's so true. Because you're like, I've often said, I'm writing on my next, like your next chapter, and I'm writing this quarter of my life, my final quarter, and so and I'm going to live it to the best I can. And so I love that. I think that's so true.
Yeah. And it's so tied to your confidence, and you don't think of it. And then you think you're not confident because of these things happening out there. You're not confident because of the things happening in here, which you're fully in control of once you become conscious of it. So step 7 is really powerful. It's a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it truly is. I think building one's confidence is very, very important. I've just had a talk with a gentleman on Facebook about that, and he helps people through loss, but it's through death, and that's what he said. His big goal was to help with that confidence, getting through that. And yeah, I think it's a big game changer for people. Yeah, most certainly. I love that. So I think 7 is very, very important. So which one do you want to talk about now?
Well, I'd like to talk about step 8, because I think it's one that no matter where you are, what your circumstances are, in step 8, we tend to time travel.
Okay.
Most people don't live in the here and now. Most of us so often are fretting the past or worrying the future. And what happens, it's the same nightmare stories. It's like you're thinking about all the things you did wrong or he did wrong in the past, or all the things that could have been or should have been. And when you're not here, when you're not present in today, whatever you're thinking about, you still have a lot of energy going into that, right? So you could be, I remember I would be driving down the road and I'd start having arguments with my soon-to-be ex in my head. Now it's a sunny day, I'm happy, I had a good morning, and all of a sudden I'm like, and all of my energy is going into something that doesn't even exist. It goes into an argument in my head. And so step 8 is about holding on to your energy and using it in the present, which is the only place where you have any power. So again, it's an empowering thing. So it's very easy, again, for those nightmare stories about the future. Am I going to see my kids? Am I going to have any money? Am I going to meet a guy or a gal? And you're hemorrhaging vitally needed energy that you need today because you're making really critical decisions. And so step 8 is about keeping your head where your feet are. It's about staying in the present, being here now, and consciously continuing to come back to today where your energy is needed and there's a lot of big decisions to be made. So
that's excellent. That's very, very excellent. And you're so true. It's so true that, you're flopping all over, aren't you? And you're worried because you're just worried, I mean, but let's face it, that's really what you are. But if you live in the moment, in the present, it certainly does help you gain that control to be able to know what you need to do next. So that's great. Overcome pain of divorce. That's number 9. That's huge. Like that's a huge step. All of these are really huge steps.
Yeah, so you'll notice that we all go through. It's like regardless of where you live and how old your kids are and what kind of a marriage you had, these are steps that almost everybody needs to go through. In fact, people have said to me, take the word divorce off. Everybody should do the 12 steps just because of life, which is very true. And so step 9, which is overcoming the pain of divorce, brings us back to that issue of resistance. And one of the things that people don't understand is divorce is painful, but when you're suffering through every aspect of your divorce, that's about resistance. That's about resisting what happened, who you are, who he is, what might happen. And so you're fighting every step of the way. Resistance is a very heavy energy. And so we talk in step 9 all about acceptance, which is a journey. It's a journey in and of itself, just like forgiveness is, just like grief is, because first you begin to intellectually accept where you're at. You might begin to accept, okay, my spouse always shows up this way, or I always show up this way. But that's on a head level. And then as you go through this enormous transition, really accepting that your life is changing, that you're becoming a single parent, that you might be moving, you might be going back into the workplace. Just like grieving, acceptance has so many different layers. And each time you step into acceptance, you open up a host of new doors and new choices. And one of the greatest parts that cause us to be in pain is feeling like we don't have any choices and we don't have any power. And so step 9 really invites you to make a shift that allows you to feel empowered and to start making choices that get you unstuck and moving forward on a regular basis.
Yeah. It just gets a little lighter, I guess, maybe, when you start to get out of that where you just hurt so much all the time. There's a big release there for you. It's amazing. So 10 is accelerate trust during and beyond divorce.
Yeah, so just like the 12-step programs, step 10, 11, and 12 are almost designed for now that you've done all this hard work and you've made these changes, live the rest of your life in 10, 11, and 12. And 10, I mean, any of us who've gone through divorce, our trust has been broken. And 10 is really about listening to your intuition. Now, when you're in conflict and chaos and ruminating, that quiet little voice of intuition can't even be heard. Like, it's just so noisy. And so step 10 comes toward the end, because now that you've done some of this work, you really should be able to start hearing and listening to and trusting your inner wisdom. And whatever you consider that, if you consider it spirit, the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, that intuition and inner wisdom is your healthiest driving force. And having had your trust broken, what most clients find is, while the other person may have broken their trust, they had a knowing of things that were going on. I mean, I did. And they shut it down. It was too complicated or too scary or too something. And so we kind of broke our own trust too. And so step 10 is about re-engaging with your intuition and beginning to first trust yourself so that you could then begin to trust your discernment in trusting others.
Yeah, that's very well said. It's very true too. As you go through, you start. I realize even with my own, there was times when, as I got more towards the end of it, I started then saying, "Oh yeah, I realized this happened or that happened," and which I didn't even realize it at the beginning. So it's like I almost like closed my eyes to it. So this light bulb started going off, and then and for me, and I only can speak in my terms of it, as it started going off for me, it started being more of an enlightenment to be able to move forward. And so it was taking it off of my ex and putting the attention that I needed really to put on my own life. And so, yeah. It's really, as your life, and I want to share this with the listeners because I think it's so important, is as they move through that pain and just that shift that that's creating, through the divorce process and through the divorce recovery, there is, when you get to the other side, there is such an enlightenment and, future ahead for them. And so it's just really, truly great. So embrace the unpredictable during and beyond divorce is the 11th.
Yeah, and 11's really about taking responsibility. And all of the steps, again, lead up to this. It's like nothing is happening to you. Nothing just happens to us. Our choices lead us to wherever we are. And so when we can say, life is unpredictable, and everything that I face, I am fully responsible to make decisions, the best decisions I can in that space, see how it unfolds, and then recalibrate and make another decision. And I think that, you know, wouldn't you say that about your business? I would say that certainly about my life and my coaching business is some things that I did were a complete flop. And I take full responsibility for making a decision, investing, and then maybe it didn't work. But even if it didn't work, I learned something. And so step 11 is take responsibility and know that however it unfolds is exactly how it's supposed to unfold. And that's going to give you another lesson, good information for how you then move forward. So instead of being the victim of life or the victim of a person, you are trusting your intuition, you're staying present with what is, you're accepting people for how they show up and not hoping that they're going to show up differently. And so step 11, you're fully responsible. And on this adventure that we call life, you get to say, okay, this is what I have. What do I want to do with it? And I'll try this path. And it's going to lead me someplace that's either going to get me where I want to go or teach me a lesson that I need to get where I want to go.
Yeah, you've hit it. I mean, I think that's really, really important. And the lessons we've learned, you know, as we move forward, it can be so valuable to us and maybe something we actually needed to learn. You know, I mean, there's many things I've learned about myself that, you know, it's shocking for me as I move forward. And sometimes when I take a new step in life and I think to myself, oh, that really wasn't what I really had planned. But then I realize something even better is coming out of it. So sometimes it's taking those chances, you know, that we have to take. And so it's beautiful. Live life purposefully, if I can say it. That's a big word for me, post-divorce. And so that I think you're actually doing, and I know that I'm doing. So let's talk about that for just a couple seconds.
I would say that I'll use myself as an example. I think that through most of my life before divorce, I tripped over men and started dating them. I tripped over jobs and started working in them. I was not the symbol of conscious, intentional choice. And it didn't always serve me very well. And so living life purposefully is taking everything you've learned, everything you've been through, and being the master, being fully responsible, setting your course, setting it intentionally, and then surrendering the outcome, knowing that life is a little wild and it's a ride and it's an adventure, and truly creating the life that you want, but not white knuckling it like, and then it didn't happen. That's okay. It didn't happen. What left-hand turn did I go on? What right-hand turn am I going on? And so living life purposefully is being the master, intentionally and consciously setting your path and enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. I really know that this is going to help many, many people. And you have it so beautifully laid out, so beautifully written. I know that, of course, with anything, when you're dealing with individuals, you're dealing with a lot of, you know, just ups and downs and things like that. But you've been in the business for a while now. You know, you've experienced it yourself, so you certainly can relate to your clients. And so that's vital, I think, for a good coach. So I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks. And I just want to mention, this is a podcast series, and we're on every single platform. So whether it's iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, Stitcher, we're on all of them. And so all you have to do is look for Journey Beyond Divorce. And we just launched this about a week and a half ago. So the first few steps are out. We're rolling them out every couple of days.
Okay.
And so, I would love if you're interested that you find your preferred platform and start listening. And we hope that everyone finds value in them. And the other thing, if I could, is anyone who feels like they're stuck, we do have a free gift of a rapid relief call. And
this other gift you have up here, it's the free divorce survival kit. Is that the one you were talking about?
Well, we do have a free divorce survival kit, which we're happy to share, and it gives 5 different tips than these. But if I could just say, a lot of people just listen and they're like, I need a lifeguard. I need more than just listening. And so we offer a free call with one of our coaches. We have a team of coaches.
Okay. Let me put your phone number up as you're sharing that. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's book.rapidreliefcall.com. So you're booking a call, book.rapidreliefcall.com, and you just schedule your call and one of the coaches get on the phone, and it's a free call. You get support for an hour, and it's kind of our way of paying it forward and helping people out. So feel free to take advantage.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, I love having you on the show. I think it's wonderful what you do. And I know that, a lot of people are going to really get a lot of what you have to say. You're really going to help a lot of people. And so I want to thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's been a joy to have you. The time goes by so quickly, and it amazes me because I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's happened already. So our time has finished here. So I have to close out the show. But Karen McMahon, thank you so much for being on the show with us. And your company is Journey Beyond Divorce, and I appreciate that. We're going to have to close out the show. This is Cece with Going Solo, and you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Again, please like us on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us. We would love to have you with us. Also, we're on all podcasts and we're on everywhere too. So we hope that you will join WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We love you for it. We appreciate that. We've got a couple brand new sites out. We've got Going Solo Travelers, a brand new site connecting singles and travel. So we hope that you will join us there. It's goingsolotravelers.com. And then also our website for our media here with WGSN DB is goingsolomedia.com, and we're excited about all of the exciting things that are happening for us here and all of our wonderful hosts that are here on our station. So I hope that you'll stick around. I will be on some more shows later on tonight, and we have the Boy and Girl thing coming up, and we also have Arnie who will be talking to us, Arnie Fonseca. He'll be helping us in health, love, and life. And so that will be following. So love you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye for now.